actually was like, they're like, yeah, these are bad excuses, but I haven't worn shoes in 6 months. And their feet swell a little bit because not having...
Because their body hasn't been pumping it up.
Yeah. So they wear Crocs for a couple days to get used to wearing shoes again and get the calluses back on their feet. And but walking is difficult because they're anatomically they've altered their musculature.
Scott Kelly is up there for a year.
That's what I was going to ask.
He just passed 7 months.
Is he going to be seeing signs of atrophy and stuff before he comes back?
I personally think that he's going to come back just fine. What happens is the first 30 days you have this acute adaptation syndrome with your muscle, your heart, everything. I mean, every system, your eyes, your gut, your lungs, everything changes. And then you kind of stabilize and you have this subtle little decrement over time. And then when they come back, they have this acute phase readaptation for about 30 days. Their heart, their VO2 max drops by like 50%. And then 30 days later, it's almost back to normal. And they work out like fiends. They have to do aerobic exercise an hour a day and then resistive training an hour a day. And they have to do it 6 days a week minimum. Some will do it 7. And they're kind of jockeying because when we first started, we were losing about 1% bone mass per month. So when they were coming back, some were pretty osteoporotic. And so we're like, don't do anything because you could break your hip or your pelvis or your lower spine seemed to be the places where the bone leached the most. Because that's your gravity bones, So, but they're weightlifting so much now that we're barely seeing any.
I guess it's resistive training, right?
Resistive training. We have I call it the $1 billion Bowflex. It's the most over-engineered piece of ever. And all it is a Bowflex device with these rubber cams rather than like limbs. And I kid you not, we've talked. We're just like, God, just send it Bowflex. It'd be easy to fix. It does the exact same thing that this $1 billion device does, and they're constantly having to fix it. It's constantly breaking down. But
what about depression?
None whatsoever. If anything, they develop a euphoria. Something's happening in the brain where they can't get back soon enough. I mean,
they want to go back to space.
They want to go back to space. They develop. It's not an overt euphoria, but people that aren't religious, they don't get religious, but they get wow. They get this sense of
something bigger than themselves.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, wow. So, and when they come back, they come back fine. Food is a huge deal because you have to be real careful about the sodium amount that goes into it. So we try and send them their little favorite treats. Like one guy had a whole carton of Slim Jims sent up.
Ooh, salt.
And that was a huge deal because it's like, okay, we're going to send you Slim Jims, but you can only have one a day. And if you do, you've got to drink this much extra water because kidney stones is a big risk because they're leaching the calcium out of their bones. And that's what a precipitate for kidney stones. And if you get a kidney stone on orbit, it's just incapacitating. We have medicine for it, but if you can't pass it, you got.
And gravity's not helping.
Yeah. So,
It just amazes me.
Yeah.
It just
Well, we-
amazes
yeah, like
me.
Emerald Lagasse, he made some food, and the people processed
And
it for him.
the one that we had breakfast with, that was the astronaut.
Ed Lou.
Who?
Ed Lou?
Ed Lou. And he was on the Emerald Show talking, because he had already been in space 2 or 3 times when he was on Emerald Show. And he was on that show, and he was talking to him about what all they could do in space and stuff.
What are you going to say about the kidney stone? If you can't pass it, then what?
They come home.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the nice thing is we're in low Earth orbit, so they're only 2 hours from home. So if anything ever goes bad, we just demand the space station, and it can be autonomously run. And of course, we don't want to do that, but we're always able to bring them back in short order.
Thanks to the Russians.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Well, they're still going up with Russian rockets.
That's the only game in town.
Yeah.
For the next 2 years.
They're no dummies. They're charging us $60 million a person
What?
Yep.
now. Yeah.
And get all the benefits of the space station. And I'm sure they have plans to take over it. And I'm sure we have plans not to allow that.
Half and half.
Yeah. What was interesting is so the Russians eat American food, and and Americans eat Russian food.
They have dinner once a week together.
Yeah, they have dinner once a week, and it's a station, but until recently it was just U.S. and.
I guess it depends on the cruise. Some of the crews really got along well, and they would have dinners all the time. But I think currently they're having.
But we just had our first Japanese commander. So when the Japanese started coming out, it's like, well, the Japanese want their food. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, so are Russians going to eat Japanese food, and Americans going to eat Japanese food, and
Oh,
and
the
then the
Italians.
Italians. So I think Karen Nyberg was
It was sunny.
It wasn't Paolo. It was the guy that nearly drowned.
Oh yeah, Luca.
Luca Parmitano. He had a bunch of Italian food flown up, and
He was
of course he
being
had
very generous with it. He was sharing it with everyone, and they were all love it. This is the best lasagna I've ever had, and all this. And then he realized he didn't get his whole shipment, and he ran out of Italian food.
What?
He ran out of his food.
ran out of his food. So he had
Another thing y'all probably saw when you were there, each country that's involved has their own station part of it.
their own module.
They have their own, like,
The Canadians have an arm.
yeah, and
Yeah, so
the
everybody's
Japanese have
contributed
a
a part.
certain part, and the Italians. So
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
not just one place where they are all living. There's these little houses that are connected.
And then poor Samantha Cristoforetti, who
Also Italian.
Who we
Her
took care of
shipment
and-
is the one that blew up on the launch
Exploded.
pad, the
Oh, my,
SpaceX
yes.
one.
so she
So
lost
she
all-
didn't get any of her workout clothes or underwear or her food. She didn't have any Italian food either.
Or underwear.
Yeah,
What are you
or
gonna
everywhere.
do? She's the only female up there. You can't borrow
But it
underwear.
didn't depress her.
No.
Angry, I would think.
Great.
Samantha was a lot of fun. We lived in Russia for 5 months,
And we took turns. The French astronaut cooked one night with his significant other. Samantha made a meal one night, and I went in and I was like, hey, so is this spaghetti sauce like a family recipe or anything? And she said, no, I Googled the recipe.
she came in one night and she goes, I know today is a very big day for you Americans. She goes, I just can't remember if it's football or baseball.
It was the Super Bowl.
It was Super Bowl. She goes, I know today is a big day.
Congratulations to you on this day.
Congratulations. I just can't remember if it's football.
That was another great story with Luca. So did y'all hear about Luca nearly drowned in his spacesuit?
Yes.
So he's out doing a spacewalk, and he felt like he was sweating. He felt all this water, but he thought, well, I'm probably sweating more than this is my first spacewalk. Well, it turns out, yeah, Luca. So then he realized his helmet was filling with water, and he had it well, there was the gaskets. It's kind of an O-ring thing, where it's where the coolant, the AC thing is, and every 45 minutes there's a sunrise, sunset. So while they're out working, they go from like minus 400 degrees to plus 400 degrees. So the suit is constantly moving water through and cooling or heating you.
They wear a suit that has
thermal underwear kind of
that
stuff.
has IV tubing in this elaborate
So
deal.
it wasn't
They're covered in a radiator suit. And so the suit is constantly flowing hot or cold liquid over their
And
body.
they're always putting their
that,
mask
like-
up and down depending on the sun and everything. But he started, and it globs. So he like got some in his eye. You can't brush it off. It's globbed on his nose, and then he
Glob
realized
of what?
the water just globs, and he couldn't breathe. And he realized if it gets any, I need to, cancel this spacewalk. And the comm system went out. And through hand signals, he told his spacewalking buddy, and they made plans, and they knew they were going to have to get him out of the suit quickly, and they might rupture his eardrums because they couldn't like pressurize him and all that soon enough. But we were sitting around the table again after he got back in Russia. I was like, "Wow, Luca, you're amazing. I don't know how you kept so calm during all of that while that was happening, but you're just amazing." He said, "My comm was out. No one could hear me screaming." How humble is that? He just totally, he could have gone with it like, "Oh yeah, I was a cool cucumber." He's like, "No, I was freaking out."
The French guy, Thomas Pescat, he was a joy. So he goes, "I am going to make you a traditional," and he's Parisian, so he's nasty.
He's hilarious.
But
He's also an Air France pilot. So even though he's training as an astronaut, he'll still go home and fly planes for Air France. And I was like, "Tomas, why is my luggage always getting lost on Air France? My luggage has spent more weekends in Paris than I ever will. What is going on?" He goes, "Obviously, you've been naughty." Okay then.
Parisians just have an attitude. But he's a
great
funny guy. Because I'm going to make you a Parisian French dish. I'm going to make beef bourguignon. I'm like, okay. Woo-hoo. So there's a store that we go to.
We all load up in the van on Sunday, and we all go to this big supermarket, and we joke when you get out of the van, you have to sharpen your elbows because all the little babushkas, and they run into you. They're picking through the onions, and they knock you out of the way, and they hit you with their baskets and stuff. And they're all the same height, and they're all wearing basically the same neat coats and hats and stuff, and they're like, "Okay, I'm ready for war. I'm going to get my onions."
So this place, take a Walmart. It has
60 checkouts.
60 checkout lines. Take a Walmart and then just
On steroids.
keep going and going. It's Walmart on steroids. But it has 300 types of kielbasa, 300 types of cheese.
It's all pretty. It's like a nice central market kind of place.
But he's in the beef line, and the babushkas are wedging him down the line. So when then he finally gets to what he wants,
Somebody to help him.
to help him to get the meat, he's now in
butcher.
The butcher. He's been pushed from the beef section to the pork section. So he wound up buying pork instead
Shoulder.
of beef, pork shoulder instead of beef shoulder. And then he gets home, he's like,
So mad.
and he was just,
Because he stressed himself out about that dinner.
Oh my gosh,
He
yes.
wanted it to be perfect.
but it was so funny. I was like, only God can turn water into wine, but only a Frenchman can turn pork into beef bourguignon. He's like, très bien, très bien. Merci, très bien, très bien. And it was absolutely delicious. But,
Yeah.
Who are these people again?
The little grandmas.
Grandmas. They're
Booskas.
Babushkas?
babushkas.
The little grandmas.
They're
Yeah,
grandmas.
so in World War II they lost six.
Italian grandmas?
No, they're
No,
Russian.
they're Russian.
They're Russian. But all of us are training in Russia together. And so we all go into the store together because we have to drive like an hour
To get our
from
groceries.
the military base. We all load into the van together on Sunday morning. And
But that's a new thing. When they first started going, they went to
We-
little markets.
We went to the local
We-
market.
Yep.
And we still do it a little bit, but we call it the babushka gene because the Russian girls are 6 foot tall and
Gorgeous.
5.5 foot leg. I mean, they're just
beautiful. But
beautiful.
then somewhere around
40,
they shrink and become
4 foot tall and 4 foot wide. And they are. They're these little squatty, and they kind of.
well. So what was it? 6 million or 16 million men they lost in World War II?
6 million.
6 million men were lost in World War II, and these little babushkas are just tough and on their own, and
Yeah.
yeah, they're amazing.
Anyway,
Yeah, it was good.
it's good. Yeah, we miss it. We went this year. So we've been there since Perestroika. So we've been there since
Started going
Russia
in
was
01,
Russia,
but
not the Soviet
Perestroika
Union.
was 85. It was in the 80s, Perestroika. But it's definitely changed a lot since 01. Yeah.
Yeah. But religion is now under.
Oh, yeah. So they built a church on our military base. Yeah. And it's the priest, it's Russian Orthodox, and the priest was a pilot. So it's perfect, for our little military base. And so we got to spend the Epiphany. They're on the Gregorian calendar rather than the Julian calendar.
Yeah, we're
So
Julian.
we were in Italy for the Epiphany in Rome, which was amazing. 4 million Romans out, and that's bigger than Christmas. The Epiphany was just, and they have 3 sets of wise men. So all the nativity scenes everywhere, as it starts getting closer, the wise men will be like up here in a different size, and then it gets closer and they change the wise men and they're a little closer and they're bigger. And then by the time they get to the baby Jesus, then they're like, the same size as the rest of the manger and stuff. And it was very cool in Rome. But so we did the Epiphany in Rome, and then they had the Epiphany
The Gregorian.
like 8 days later, something like
yeah.
that, in Star City, Russia. And the management said Sean could not participate.
Actually, they're celebrating Christmas today
Oh.
or tomorrow. They'll celebrate. Russian Orthodox Christmas is tomorrow.
Something like that.
So
But they went out and they carved in the lake, and we can do cross-country skiing on this lake. It is that frozen. They had chainsaws. They carved out a baptismal pool, and they do this beautiful carving out of the ice for the cross and stuff. And then they go to Mass, and after, it's like a 2-hour Mass. So 2 in the morning, everyone walks from the church, and they had changing rooms. They changed into their bathing suits, and then walk across, and the priest blesses them, and they dunk themselves, 3 times for the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and cleaned of their sins.
Yep.
How cold is this water?
So cold.
It's frozen about 2 feet.
Yeah.
So it's 2 feet of frozen ice, and then the water underneath.
And so
he
they
gets-
told
yeah,
Sean he could not do that. He had to be the doctor on duty. But
I wanted
the
to
French
do it.
astronaut and our American commander did it, Sonny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have hot tea afterwards, and it lasted till 4 in the morning. Everybody going in.
But yeah, religion's open now, and then the Russian. I mean, it's just a huge deal. Even in Red Square, they had a little dunking thing in Red Square, so people could do it.
The baptism stuff. Yep.
Baptism. There's a really good movie that we watched. It's called The Barber of Siberia, and it's got very famous Russian and French and British actors, and it's in Russian and English, so you can follow it without the subtitles too much. But it gives a lovely history of the
Pre-communism.
the Tsarist era of Russia. It's pretty cute.
It's great. It's great. So then the Australian embassy decided they were going to take this religious holiday and make it Australian and fun for them, and also a fundraiser. So they had everybody come out, and they had to make a swimming pool instead of just a thing for baptism. So they all dressed up and wore wigs and floaties, and then the Australians all were trying to swim all the way there and back, and that's the only
They got about
frostbite
halfway.
Sean
They
had
got
to
about
treat.
halfway through, and they
They're like,
got so hypothermic they couldn't move. Fish them out and warm them up. The Russians were like, "Hey, yeah,
you guys are crazy.
that's why we just dunk. That's why our pool is this, about the size of this table." And you watching that.
Oh my god.
That was this was one of our fun trips. We took a troika ride this year. Went to
The sleds, those beautiful
sled.
painted Russian sleds with the horses and
First ride sled.